welcome to the Arrowheads Podcast, your official podcast of the PLL Sanctioned Supporter Group, the Arrowheads, your one-stop shop for Utah Archers lacrosse. All right, welcome to another episode of the Arrowhead Podcast, the official podcast of the official supporter group of the Archers Lacrosse Club. With us today, excited to have the super sophomore, Piper Bond. Piper, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thank you guys. Excited to be here.
Welcome. I feel like we're rounding out the defense. We've had you on now. We've had Bo, we've had Mason, we've had Dobber. I think we're starting with the core group here, which is the defensive set. Piper, introduce yourself for those that maybe don't know you, maybe they're new to the Archers. Who's Piper Bond?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks again for having me on. Yeah, so I'm Piper Bond. I'm born and raised in Baltimore, Maryland. Went to high school at Gilman in the MIAA. We weren't too good when I was there, but historically had a pretty good run. Then I went to UPenn, where I played for 5 years. With the COVID situation, had a fifth year. And then ultimately got drafted by the Archers after the 2023 season in the third round. And our rookie year, we had a good year, won it all, and then we ran it back this past year. So that's a little bit about me. Living in New York now currently.
Awesome. Love it. I had a question for you. So you went to Gilman, right? It's an all boys school. You played football and lacrosse. Like, why lacrosse? Why was that the sport you chose?
Yeah, so I played. My parents had me playing a bunch of sports growing up, and that's just how it was. Like, it was kind of I didn't have a phone until high school. Like, that's what we did after school, was just play a whole bunch of sports. Football and lacrosse were my favorite, and I started playing lacrosse. My dad played at North Carolina, won a national championship in 1982. So he put a stick in my hand when I was about 4. And we did the rec league and played since I was at a pretty young age. But in high school and growing up, football was my favorite sport. But ultimately, as it kind of came further along and getting into middle school and high school, it became obvious that lacrosse was kind of something that I loved as well. And, was fortunate enough to kind of take it from there. But yeah, started with my pops, who played at Carolina.
That's awesome. So you got that connection with the Rabels too, obviously, because they're North Carolina family. So
Right.
Love it. Talk to us about going to an all boys school. Like, how did that have an impact on you? Obviously, playing sports, your education, just opportunities you have to play at the next level.
Yeah, sure. So I started Gilman in high school. So I went to a co-ed public school until 8th grade. And then went to Gilman for high school. My dad and uncles went there as well. And it was great. I mean, we had our sister school, so it wasn't, we weren't with boys all the time, but Gilman set the foundations for success, ultimately for Penn and in the working world. But we were required to play a sport in each of the fall, the winter, and the spring. Like, it was just a part of what we did. So to have the access to amazing facilities, and then also to be able to just be doing something athletic related the whole year, I think no doubt helped, my skill as a lacrosse player. I think there's tons of overlap, and, would encourage everybody to not pick and choose until, they have to, and play as many sports as they can. So Gilman was awesome in that respect.
Yeah, I love that. Like, I'm a big believer in kids playing sports just for having an outlet, development of just skills in life, right? I mean, it's huge. And I'm old. I grew up in a time when cell phones were just brand new, right? But as a kid, there was no way I was going to have a cell phone. So I, like you, was like out in the street playing a sport all day long. Like, at school, it was like any break. I'm from England, right? It was like somebody had a tennis ball and you put your backpacks down, there's a soccer field to play on, right? And it's just like there's nonstop sports happening and activities. So I love, what you said about not getting a phone until high school. Like, there's so many kids today I see just locked on that device and being able to actually like be out and enjoy the sport, because sport becomes so serious in high school, right? And you feel like people are so focused on, I've got to get a scholarship, and go, like, sports is fun. So talk to me a little bit about that as you're balancing that, got to play sports, and how you still maintain that fun aspect of it.
Yeah, I mean that's the biggest piece. And sometimes to your point, like it can feel like a grind. And even growing up, there were when it felt like that, that'd be times where it was healthy for me to just take a step back, take a break. But again, frankly, playing different sports allowed me to not experience that burnout as much. Again, that's why I mentioned a minute ago. I think it's important
Yeah.
for as young athletes, especially, just play as many sports as you can. Um, but yeah, I mean, the intensity that comes with playing, I mean, and the commitment that it takes to ultimately go to the next level from wherever you are. There's going to be some times where it's hard, but at the end of the day, if you have your vision of where you want to be, and you're working hard, and then you see the payouts from that, that at the end of the day is fun, and that's what our coach Murphy would say that at Penn. Like, there's a difference between having fun with your buddies and partying or whatever, and then fun as in putting in the hard work and then winning together. And that's ultimately what I think it's all about. So.
That's awesome. So I think one of the biggest things why we like to do these interviews, we want the fans to get to know the players better. I think that's going to build a stronger fan base. Then also, like, in our experience, having had a lot of these podcast opportunities, like you guys came to Utah and was like, oh, we had him on the podcast, and it's just so much more fun when you have a personal connection. So we kind of Instagram stalked you, being perfectly candid with you. And we saw like, and it seems like in your comments as well that like you have this big family tradition. Like you talked about how your dad played college lacrosse, your dad and your uncles went to Gilman as well. Like what's the Bond family like? What are some of the pastimes of your family? What do you guys do? And it sounds like you like hobbies. I mean, we saw that you like to water ski and stuff. Can you tell us more about what the Bond family does?
Absolutely. Yeah. So my dad is a big outdoorsman. My mom too. They're always going on hikes or my dad actually called me today. I have a little sister who's 7 years old.
Oh,
And
cool.
he went camping last night and then went on a big bike ride and down the river today. Like
Wow.
that's kind of a microcosm of who my dad is, I think. But we love going skiing in the winter. We, are fortunate to have a beach house down in Delaware with a little Boston whaler. We go water skiing in the summer. We're always in the waves, and I think it goes back to again kind of what I mentioned a couple minutes ago of like just growing up. I'd have a stick in the hand, a ball in the hand. We'd be in in the ocean, in lakes, going skiing. Like our family is active, but
Cool.
at the same time, I think we're also pretty laid back. I think if anybody's met my dad, they certainly know that. Um, and so that's kind of a brief overview. And I have a little 7-year-old sister who I've been an only child my whole life until she was born a couple years ago. So that's a pretty cool experience to have her, growing up and seeing how she evolved. So.
That's awesome. Well, and one thing I've got so far is that you mentioned having other hobbies kind of like as an outlet to prevent that burnout. I was like pretty much just a lax player growing up. And now like as an adult, I'm like, man, I wish I would have done swim team. I wish I would have done other things too, just so that it would have had a healthier outlet as well. So yeah, I totally get that. Can you talk to us more about what's a passion of yours outside off the lacrosse field? Is it, skiing? I mean, you mentioned skiing. We got to get you out here in Utah skiing out here. We got the best lawn over here.
Yeah, absolutely. So skiing is certainly one of them. Traveling is one of my. I guess those kind of go hand in hand. But went to Europe a couple summers ago. Went to Thailand with my girlfriend last year. Hoping to go to Japan, potentially with the PLL and go skiing out there in March. So that's certainly a passion of mine. So, something I gave my senior speech on this in high school. I don't know how many people still really know about this, but I'm really into the weather,
Oh,
specifically like big like hurricanes, big storms, or big snowstorms. And
okay.
growing up in Baltimore, we didn't get a ton of snow, but when a big storm came in, it was like, oh my gosh, here we go. We're getting out of school. We're going sledding on the hill. We're doing all this fun stuff. So that's kind of like a low key kind of thing that not many people know about, but I'm into.
Okay. Piper Bond, the weatherman is what we're trying to say here, right? You're gonna see on the broadcast soon.
Right.
No,
I
that's
have a
awesome.
question. I have a real quick question, Piper.
Yeah.
Favorite place you've ever skied?
I, I there's been a lot of there been fortunate to go to not a lot a couple beautiful places, especially out west. I think Jackson Hole in Wyoming.
Yeah.
We had the last time, I haven't been there for a number of years, but I was there last, they got 2.5, 3 feet of snow in 24 hours, and I was 12 years old, and it was up to almost my chest. So
Cool.
that was pretty hard to beat.
Yeah, for sure. I'd say those are good memories. Now, have you skied Utah? That is the question.
I've skied Alta, I've skied Park City over the last couple of years. Would love to go back out. I was talking to Bo. I was chatting with Bo about it during the season a bunch. It's like, hey man, we might have to come out and check out the pad and see what's going on. So I'd love to get back out there.
Yeah, awesome. I tell my kids they're spoiled. They my oldest actually just this summer worked a bunch so he could pay for a season pass to ski at Brighton in the evenings. Just go up from school, drive up, ski. I'm like, you guys are so lucky. So
yeah, that sounds pretty good.
it's crazy. Anyway, sorry.
All right. Okay. So first of all, I had one question. I think your position is like one of the most unique on the field. Like I've coached at the high school level, and as a coach, I just feel like you hold those defensive middies close to heart. I don't, just because they're like workhorses. And I think at the end of the game, those guys are the ones that are the most gassed, that put the most into it. And sometimes it's the stuff that doesn't always show up on a stat sheet. But what does your training regimen look like? But I know like your rookie season, you're probably coming fresh out of college, ready to go. But year two, right? Like what is that transition of having to train and stay in shape for an upcoming season? Can you kind of tell us what your week looks like as far as training goes?
Absolutely. And it's a good question. And Maddie Moore will tell you, coming in right out of school, out of college is a hack because you're already in shape. You're already getting all these reps and all this different stuff. You're feeling pretty, you got to adapt to the pace of the league and all that stuff. But in terms of playing, you're playing a ton. That's the challenging part, at least coming out of year two. And I think going forward is, I guess if you're playing box, then you're playing a lot. But, guys like me, I'm not playing box. And so it's up to us to figure it out. So to answer your question, last year I did go up to NLL training camp, and that certainly helped my game. I'm a D guy, I'm not a no guy, but so just playing indoor and, getting the stick in my hand, no doubt benefited me. But on a week-to-week basis, it'll be lift 3, maybe do like one uppers lift. So lift 4 times a week. And then like we're going out to the field tomorrow morning over in Pier 40 on the west side. You just get up once or twice a week, usually twice a week, and go shooting, go do sprints, do some footwork. I'll try to get guys to dodge on me. That's, in my opinion, the best way to do it is just get live reps. But not often do guys want to do that at 6:30 in the morning on a Tuesday when it's cold. So, and then the other thing I'm trying to include this year, I talked to Coach Bates today too, is just playing more basketball. I think it translates, especially sixes for the Champ Series in a couple weeks or a couple months. Playing hoops, it's great for defense. It's also good for just spacing on offense and to just put yourself in athletic positions and things like that. So try to mix and match, if that makes sense.
Oh, that makes perfect sense. Thank you.
I love that. That's when you say we, who's the we that goes out on a Tuesday morning when it's cold?
Yeah. We there's actually a pretty sizable PLL contingent here now across various teams, and everybody's in the off season especially, everybody's cool with everybody, which is great. The Archers guys specifically, it'll be Ryan Ambler going forward. It'll be Bo. It'll be Cole Williams, who played with us at Champ Series last year. Ryan Ogden, Connor DeSimone used to be on the Archers. He's now was on the Outlaws this past year. Dylan Gergar, who's a Penn guy. BJ Farrar was a Penn guy. TJ Malone will be out there. So we got a lot of Timmy Muller, Wheaton Jacoboyce. Like there's a good crew. And guys are like, you got to get better. And so the only way to do it is to go out and do it. But it's nice to have a crew, no doubt.
That's awesome. Hopefully next year we can get some of those guys to dodge on you on the Tuesday morning at 6:30. In the season, you'll be like, oh, I know what he's going to do now because he was doing that on a Tuesday morning. That's awesome. So talk to us about, like, you talked about like the preparation for year one and year two. What was it like as a player? I mean, you come in as a rookie. What does it now look like in that kind of second year sophomore season? What's the difference between those two seasons for you?
Totally. I think in your rookie year, like you're playing against guys who are all first, second, third team All-Americans and guys who are older and you've looked up to and, wanted to play against. Some guys maybe you had, some guys maybe you hadn't. But they're all people that are amazing players. And I think the biggest thing in year one is getting the confidence. Or obviously the earlier, the better. But I remember even throughout the year, like it's some ups and downs. But that was the biggest piece. Coming in confident, you're coming in shape, right? Like you know that it's establishing the rhythm of doing everything on your own. For me, moving to a new city, and just that confidence piece is big. In year two, frankly, it's kind of building that back up at training camp, right? Because there's this unknown of, damn, can I do this again? But that's where we lean on. I remember talking to Tom and Ambler and some of the vets and leaning in on them about it. And in year two, it's learning. Now you got a sense of the game. You really understand it. Again, the PLL is different than college. And so understanding the game, maintaining and building on that confidence, working on some new things. I want to try to get better at, transition this past year and, continuing to build on trying to play good defense, talking more, things like that. And so just identifying some things and continuing to be comfortable and try to step up in more of a leadership capacity on the defense as well.
Yeah. How does that pressure change for you? I'm assuming as a rookie, you're coming in, there's pressure just to be like, I got to perform. There's that almost anxiety of like, I got to step up. Second year, you kind of proved yourself a little bit. Does the pressure change now to be like, I got to hold my position, I got to help be more of a leader, or mistakes maybe that were forgiven in the first year maybe aren't forgiven in the second year? Talk to me about that pressure.
Yeah, I think so, and a lot of it's kind of what you put on yourself a little bit. Everybody's got very high aspirations, for the team, of course, and then for individual play. So everything shifts, right? It's all relative to what your goals are, I think. Obviously the goal of winning a championship, but then, hey, I want to try to contribute 5 goals this year. Or I never want to get beat on a dodge or whatever it is. But there's certainly the standards uphold from the year prior and to build upon, because if you're not going forward, you're going backwards. So, and I think it's just, competitive people that we all are, that's always on the forefront of our mind is how can we continue to get better and the pressure of doing that.
Yeah. And you got to be the new guy for about 5 minutes, right? You get 1 year as the youngest guy, and then Bo comes in. Talk to me about how you potentially took what you learned as a rookie and then helped him come in and get up to speed quick.
Totally. And, Bo it's funny, he was at Princeton when I was at Penn. So we were always like competing against each other throughout our careers. And Bo had a great year. And he came in right away and was clearly, Mar and I we're like, yeah, we knew he could play. So it was just about seeing it live and getting him in the rhythm. But he came in ready to go. And of course, Mar and I were offered some insight on some things that helped us in as we transitioned over. So kind of some of that insight, which I think some of he took and some of I think he listened and maybe didn't decide to, which is how it should work. And he had a great year, and it took him all of a game, not even, to really just step right in and ball out.
Yeah, love that. And luckily for you, you've only ever known winning in the PLL, winning the championship. What is it like year one compared to year two? Like, and I'm guessing we could just say at this point, maybe you were the missing piece, right? I mean, it was not until Piper Bond got to the Archers that we could win.
That's what they're saying.
Don't ever leave. Yeah, I mean, that's
just letting you know those conversations on Instagram.
That certainly ain't it, but it was nice to be a part of the group last year, no doubt. And last year was, Coach Bates said it in the post-game interview after the championship. Like, last year was a little different. Like, we kind of cruised most of the year. Obviously, 8-2. The championship game was very tight, but most of the year we felt pretty good. This past year, we were missing Haas for the first couple of weeks. We maintained our core, but Matty Moore got hurt. Like, there was just it took us a minute to click. And then we started to get on the roll. The Utah weekend was no doubt, one of the turning points in our season. It was a turning point in our season, or maybe not turning point, but established what we knew we could do. And then obviously being able to go, win the thing again was pretty damn cool. A different feel, I think, especially in the rookie year, like, you just come in and you're just kind of following along. And so to now be in the second year and kind of stepping into more of a vocal role and just having been there before, it had a different vibe. But both tasted pretty good at the end.
I love that. And last question I have for you in this section. You mentioned that there's guys out there that you went to school with that you see on a Tuesday morning. There's a play that's out there on Twitter actually of you kind of manhandling Hadley when they played. And obviously the Outlaws are now a rival of the Archers. Um how did those relationships translate? I mean, you go to, you're side by side in battle with a guy for, several years, and then all of a sudden like, hey, I'm gonna take you down. Like how do you manage that like relationship transition?
Yeah, it's a good question. That play with Sam, he slipped. So he's a big boy. I'll take that he slips on that play, but he's a phenomenal player, obviously, and one of my best friends. Yeah, it's cool. So Dylan Gergard, BJ Farrar, and Sam Hanley, we all did our fifth. Well, we all were at Penn for 4 years, and then decided to go back for our fifth year as well. And all of us are fortunate to be playing in the league. Hopefully, Emma Carroll, Brendan Lavelle have that opportunity next year as well. And we're still, best friends, right? Like before that game in Charlotte when we played the Outlaws, I talked to Sam for like a half hour, outside the locker room, just catching up. Hadn't seen him for a little while. But when the pads go on, you start shit talking a little bit. There ain't no love lost while you're playing. And it was like, and it reminded me of practice. Like when we get competitive at practice at Penn, it was the same thing. And then you take the pads off, you take a picture together, say I love you and chat that week. So I love playing against those guys. It's a lot of fun. Same thing with BJ. He's my roommate actually in New York, and we played him out in Utah when we played the Redwoods. So it makes it fun. It makes it fun.
And thankfully, you have the ability to say scoreboard to all of them at this point. So right, you're sitting
Yeah.
on top of the pyramid. So
So I think this year was totally different because of the home cities and stuff. I was wondering if you could kind of bring us backstage a little bit, like when the announcement of, hey, we're gonna have home cities. What did that look like from a player's perspective? Was there kind of like, oh, I wonder where we land? What were some of the guesses? And then ultimately, what was the feeling, being landed in Utah? I don't know if you can kind of take us behind the scenes on that. I don't think we've ever asked about this before. We've had like 4 or 5 players on, but
Sure. Yeah. So I think it was excitement when the home cities were announced, no doubt. Across our team, across guys in the league, we knew that was like the next logical step in what the league wanted to become. So that piece was exciting. And then we had no idea. We thought maybe we'd go to Philly just because we had a bunch of guys that are from Philly: Grant, Ambler, Coach Bates, Coach Resch. So for whatever reason, we kind of thought maybe there was a chance there. And frankly, when Utah got announced, it was like we were surprised that Utah even got a team. We were like, oh, really? Like, interesting. So there was kind of more of an unknown feel, I think. But at the same time, we knew that there had the potential to be a tremendous lacrosse community out there, which it turned out to be amazing. But I'd say initially it was more like surprise, more shock, not shock, but more like, oh, interesting. Like that's where we're going. And then again, it ended up being the best home crowd in the league. So we are more than happy with it.
Awesome. Well, so did you guys find out like live in the broadcast as well as players?
I distinctly remember I was at work for my quote unquote real job, and I saw that it was going to be announced, and I pulled it up and threw in a headphone, and I was sitting at my desk and had ESPN on to see Rabel announce it. And I remember sitting there, I was like, "Whoa, this is pretty cool! Like this is actually happening." But yes, everybody's just tuned. Nobody knew. We were just tuned into ESPN.
Interesting, because I remember that like there's obviously speculation, and as like from a fan perspective, it's fun to kind of guess. And somebody like the Archers were like, "Oh, Connecticut," and I was like, "Oh, that's interesting." And then I was like, but I always felt like if Utah were to get a team, it was going to be the Archers because of Will Manny and Marcus and their work out here. When the Archers played the Chaos in like a semifinal in like 2021, the whole stadium started going crazy for the Archers and started chanting. And so like my experience that time was like, it's probably going to be the Archers, but I wasn't for sure either. And especially our market was probably the most like trial, like let's see how this market goes kind of
Sure.
market out of all of them. And so it was really, I don't know, like you said, like we showed up and it was really reassuring to be like, okay, not only were we the trial market, but we came out the strongest. And that was exciting as a fan point of view. But yeah, I never knew like what that looked like from the players' perspective, if they were talking to players or coaching staff or what that looked like. But
No,
I,
total surprise for us.
I'm going to
interesting.
give credit to the Utah decision to my kids. During the bubble, they went and sat. They would have me drive them up there, and we'd go to the stadium. And there was a power. There's like if you go in Designs Bank Arena, there's a power like a green power box right there as you pull in. And they took their lawn chairs and they sat up on that power box and watched every game over the wall for that season.
That's epic.
Bubble. So I'm like, hey, give it to
That
my
is
kids.
awesome.
But
I was
that's
the
the
best
dedication
in
of
the
Utah
same
fans,
room.
right?
Sure.
Yeah. I
Oh
remember,
yeah. Oh yeah. You could feel
yeah, but
All right. We got a couple of last questions here for you, Piper. All right. Biggest question that we ask everybody, especially on the defense, ice cream. I
that.
asked Bo this question. If there was a Utah Archers ice cream flavor, what would it be?
I listened to Bo's response and I thought it was pretty good. um,
Okay.
it is a good question though. I mean, I think Bo said it too. There's a lot of different flavor options and or flavor preferences out there. Um, I'm personally, let's see, I got a bunch of different flavors this year. I'm a mint chocolate chip guy personally,
yeah.
but I know guys like coffee. I know guys like cookie dough. We went to this one place before the championship game in Philly that were like these massive like crumble situations, and we all chowed way down, and our stomachs hurt for a couple days. But if there was a flavor, it'd be there'd have to be some type of chocolatey mix in there, maybe a little bit of coffee, and maybe some type of Oreo topping or something like that.
Love it. Good call. All right. We're going to start making some of these flavors. I'm going to get the ice cream maker out. We're going to start making some.
Right. Let's do it.
Test them out. Um, Final question for you. I mean, 1-2 in a row. What does year three look like? And, as you guys come back to Utah, what do you hope to see?
Yeah, great question. I mean, our aspiration is to win it again, of course. And the cool part about it is in my opinion, we have the core in place to be able to do that. I'm not sure we're going to lose anybody. But again, of course, you got to stay healthy. Every year is different. Every team's different year to year, no matter what, even if it's the same players. But I think we're confident in our guys, and I think we have a legitimate shot to run this thing back. We got some work to do in the off season in terms of re-signing guys and potentially free agency in the draft. Like, of course, there's all that stuff, and then putting in the work off the field, obviously, as well. That's a pretty important piece. But I think we're really excited, and I think poised to put ourselves in a position to potentially run it back. But you never know. That's the goal, though.
I love it.
What kind of expectations or what kind of things do you guys have for the fans? Like, how can we jump in and help you guys achieve that goal? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah,
it's more like a community at this point. Once you have a home city, it's about the fans supporting the team and the team representing the fans. So what kind of expectations do you guys have for the fans this upcoming year?
totally. And yeah, you're right. I didn't answer the second part of that other question. I think if you guys can show out the way that you did this year, I mean, it was legitimately made a difference in both of those games, and both of those games were tight. And if we lose one of those or both of those, like it's a very different end of the season into the playoffs. So if you guys can continue to bring that energy and you look out into the stadium and you see orange and white and you don't see any other colors, know that motivates us and that little extra juice, especially in an arena like that where you can really feel it. You're super close to the field. Like that is making a difference. And we certainly are wearing that as a little chip on our shoulder to know that you guys are there backing us.
Awesome.
Love it. Yeah. we were trying to be as obnoxious as possible in the stadium because there was a Redwoods fan and his two boys sitting next to us, and we were so obnoxious they left at one point. Not to them, just we were so loud they were like, "All right, we're out." So they left early in that game. It was great. So we did our job. We do what we can for you guys, you know. All right, Piper. We appreciate you being on, taking time out of your day to chat with us, and great to get to know more about you. And yeah, good luck for the next year.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you guys. Appreciate you having me on. Hopefully you guys can keep this thing rolling and keep building this thing. Appreciate it.
We're just trying to get you a bunch of jersey sales. Like that's all we want. Just a bunch of 54s out there for you. So.
There ain't too many of those besides my mom and maybe a couple here and there, but appreciate it.
All right, kids, you heard it here. Get that Piper Bond jersey for Christmas. Yeah. Do you guys track that, by the way? Is there any stats around like jersey sales for names?
Yeah, I don't know what specifically it is, but we do get you get like 4% of the royalties or whatever. So I got a little $20 direct deposit from the PLL last year. At some point, I'm like, what is this? And that's the equivalent to like 4 or 5 sales. And I could literally name, the 4 people that got the jersey. So anyway, some guys probably do all right. It's all good.
All right, we got to get you on here more often, like a Aaron Rodgers right. Tuesday kind of thing with Piper Bond. And then, jersey sales will go through the roof. So with our subscribers.
Hopefully there's a lot more Piper Bond jerseys going this Christmas with the performance of the D middies this year. Like you guys just crushed it. And then from fans watching, like Brady said, D midi is such a
race.
It's not flashy, flashy position. You don't hear about it much, but it is so essential to every team. And I feel like you guys just elevated that. So every kid that's a D midi should be buying, a Bo Pedersen or a Conor Mars or, Piper Bond jersey this year because you guys just crushed it and just showed how important that position was. So, and as fans, we thank you because you brought us a championship. Yeah. Like we've told everybody else, the Archers are now the winningest professional sports team in Utah. And it only took you 2 years. So good job. So, yeah. So hopefully the hockey team can catch up. But yeah, you guys are it. Like you guys are setting the bar high, and we as lacrosse fans thank you guys for what you did because it means the world to Utah lacrosse fans to be like, not only did we inherit the championship team, but you guys backed it up. So we have bragging rights over everybody else. So thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, I appreciate that. And love running with Mar and Bo too, man. It's a good group to be with. So, and I'm glad that we could bring the title to Utah. Hopefully we'll do it again.
Yeah, we'll just keep it here. It's a good place. So right. Next goal is to get the governor to do the bus, the open top bus tour around Salt Lake next time. That's what we've got to make happen, especially for you 3P. It's like, come on, Spencer Cox. Like,
let's do it. I'm in for that.
We're all in for it. Let's make it happen. So if nothing else, I'll bring a double decker over from England and we'll make it happen. So, yeah. All right. And with that, Brady, take us out. So
above all else, win. Let's go get a third one. Let's do it.
Above all else, win. Thanks, everyone. This podcast is not affiliated with the Premier Lacrosse League or Archers Lacrosse Club. This is an independent, fan-run podcast.